Peace, peace, peace. All right, let's see. Let's see what we have here. All right. The been here for a while. Been here for I don't even know. Let's see how long we've been at the law school. We've been at law school here for like since the power hour, so about an hour and a half already. You know, just building with the gods and stuff, adding on all that good things, all them good things. I'm gonna be here at least an hour. I'm gonna be here till 8 o'clock. Okay. Um, let's try to even this thing out. I got this thing wobbling here, but I want to thank everybody for the session um, last week. Um, did the class at my home. Um, wasn't able to come out here. Just was too busy with work and everything, and I couldn't finish a certain editing job unless I was able to stay home a little longer. But Clemente, peace. Um, Today's the knowledge add on a cipher day. You know what I mean? And the God, my brother, gave me a great build on the day. And today in the Justice Day in the Supreme Alphabet, people always quote the plus lesson because it just became the standardized understanding. I don't mean that negatively. I mean that positively. It is a blessing if people have things that are standardized in the nation. You know what I'm saying? I'll give you an example. Look, listen, and observe is knowledge. To a modern thing, like when people say, we'll start to say things that you say because they see it as right and exact. Like when people say remembered imperfection, which I came up with. These are things that are a blessing when they become a standard because they happen to be correct and useful to the people using it. But it's always good to question any kind of standard. And I don't remember I never say this though, so I don't remember the plus lesson like that. But it goes, and I probably have it though. I have a big giant box and I'm still going through it. But justice is a penalty or reward for one's actions. You know what I'm saying? So I was thinking of an old Sufic philosopher, I think from the 800s, and her name, I'm going to pull it up now because I forgot who it was, and then I remembered. I looked it up so I could tell the God. There was a Sufi named, let's see where it was. The name. I wrote it down in this text. Rabia Basri. I'll write it in the comments here. You know what I mean? Rabia Basri. And I remember reading her in a book about Sufic literature and stuff. Probably something Idris Shah put together. I'll write down Idris Shah's name too. He did a lot of scholarship on Sufic literature that's really great. Firsthand stuff, you know what I mean? Firsthand stories, vignettes, and things like that. And she had an understanding that I thought related here. She said that if your righteousness is not really righteousness without the intent being only of righteousness, and I'm paraphrasing here. So if you were doing something that's righteous, right and exact, good, well-meaning intention, if the ultimate intention is also and certainly only if it's only for, but even partly, as she stated, if it's for the reward or to avert, stop, make sure that it doesn't happen, some type of punishment, then she's felt that it was not righteousness. And she said that the glory to God was to do things only for that, not for its righteousness, not for its benefits. And because I always saw that understanding, I always looked at the meanings and the sincerity by which I share and teach. I think about that and thought about it for years and years, and it always comes into my mind again. It's coming to my mind again as I build with the God today. And it's not incorrect to say justice is is the meeting out of one's penalty or reward for certain ways and actions, because it's a way of saying that it does happen no matter what. Reward or punishment happens in some kind of way, and there's an argument to say that there is no middle ground for anything. If you think nothing happens, something did happen, so that's an important way to look at things, when we look at the standardized understanding of justice that all our elders taught us and stuff, and they built, you know. And I remember Papa Wu, freedom a lot. Remember the perfection. He used to always say that. You know what I mean? Um, um, so, and I always saw the understanding, but I used to always think of like, what are the reasons that we do things? What are the reasons that we we do it? We all have a reason. We all have a reason for things. So it's not like I could stand here and say, "Oh no, I do it," just so for things to be great, and it's just the right thing to do, and that's why I just do it. No, no, no. There's a goal. Like I want everything to be supreme. I want the devil gone mentally, and if so, physically, you know what I mean? Because mental is the most important part. But we have things that we want to happen. We want our children, my own, but by extension, all the children to have a greater reality, right? So there are things that we want, though, and if they happen every single time that I teach and add on and build, no matter what, that is some type of reward. It is something greater than what once was. You know what I'm saying? And but I ponder, and I told the God, just ponder on the word here, because if Sunya's Allah, if I build on justice and how I see it, I can't really use that as the premise, though. It's something that is correct, but it wouldn't be in the premise of the way I build. I have a little bit of a sore elbow here, so I'm just trying to get some of these in, because this stuff is isometric and moving, and it really works. You know what I mean? We used to call it the toy from Marvin Gatlin. Remember the perfection? Marvin Gatlin made that up here, and it wasn't that Muslim guy from Rip, right? And by the way, I always tell people you can make this on your own. These are all jump rope handles that were weighted. You know what I mean? Make your own. You know what I mean? But spending all that money to get something like this, is if you want to support people, but it's unnecessary. You know, but you know, when I think of knowledge add-on to cipher, it ends up being a beautiful thing because it shows the continuity of life. It shows the idea that everything that I have lived, whether it was good or bad, that's perception, good or bad, wonderful or not wonderful, um, righteous or filled with unrighteous moments or hellish moments, whatever it is, it means that I can always continue on from there. That no matter what happened before, knowledge add on is going to be the only way to continue. And that's a consistency. Let me tell the God, thank you. God out there fetching me a carrot juice, you know what I mean? But so the way I see it though, like, what is the reward? Training, reading, writing, building, teaching, sharing. It has fused so much in my life that I don't work out and be like, and I look at myself and I go, wow, that's the reward. That's the, you know what I mean? Um, I end up looking at it like that's the way we're supposed to be. You know, I think that's one of the blessings of being around so many elders. Being around so many legends. Like people, I really find it very troubling that people look at that we don't have a good context for things. We have this knowledge a long time, and we don't seem to be making a better context of the way that we see elders, like we don't look at them and say, look at the great things they did teaching this knowledge, and then also look at, like, listen, how difficult the life was and how it may have been. You know what I'm saying? I always looked at it that way. I went through a lot of things as a grown man with this knowledge. You know, heartaches, heartbreaks, loss of money, loss of job. Most of the time, willfully. You know, I was just building with the God outside. We were talking about the COVID era, and I was telling him how many jobs that I lost and couldn't get. So it's kind of like adding in the big loss pile of all kinds because I wouldn't get the vaccine. You know what I mean? And based on our principles of knowledge itself, it should have been done. That should have been done by everyone on the simple grounds of no one knew what the ingredients were. Forget about if you know, and we don't trust the source. So those two things, but definitely that first thing. If you don't know what the ingredients are, something, you can't tell me it's going to work because then it's based on another man, and it's gross, emphatic wisdom knowledge. You know, so like if people were telling me that we're getting it, got knowledge itself, they would have to admit that it absolutely was wisdom knowledge at the very, 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 very least. You know what I mean? No matter what you say, anyone, no one can say that their doctor said this and they trust the doctor. Absolutely no one, because the doctor didn't have the ingredients either. And the track record of the vaccine's history was never good. You know what I mean? Between all the mercury and all that other stuff, you know what I mean? And by the way, a lot of naysayers, I'm riffing here. A lot of naysayers talk about the vaccines are good, this and that, and talk about what RFK is trying to do, which he's doing a good thing there. Saying that things like thimerosal, which have mercury in it, are not bad for you because the amount. That's FDA Americanized, westernized, clever scientific statement to say something is not toxic in small amounts. You know what I mean? It is one of the most toxic things ever because to measure toxicity is not in small amounts. These, let's say, room sprays, fragrance sprays in the room, like Febreze and stuff, they have toxic chemicals in them, but they're always seen as non-toxic because they're taken, because for each spray, it's never enough to actually harm you. But we don't use a little bit. Our body will accumulate that entire spray throughout its use. And so the ideas of the body's accumulation, its storage, etc., etc. So when we look at these things, um, it leads me to this whole idea of justice certainly is the penalty, but even with the rewards of such, right? Um, I don't like the word reward. I would rather use a word um, that wouldn't be like sound like such a prize. You know what I mean? It's why I don't always deal with the 12 jewels, even though I love the way RZA builds on it and others that I've built with. Um, because I don't like the idea that we are doing this for the reward. Um, Everything righteous and good that happens to us as we build, to me, is just the way things ought to be. And I spent so much time trying to make what is considered a rewarding thing a normal thing. I'm always trying to normalize things that are, rewarding, that are seen as rewards, I don't want us to think of things in any other kind of way, because this is where excellence comes in, you know. And there comes a point where you could do something so well. Give me a moment here. Yeah, there comes a point where you could do things so well that it feels like it's already done. You've received your reward. You know what I mean? And our continuing diligence with things shouldn't only be because the devil's still out there, or as it goes into degrees, they continue daily. You know what I mean? We should do things just because they ought to be done. You know what I mean? If something is done excellent and it wards off, for example, the martial arts, we may train it at such a level that it wards off any enemy. But do we plateau or do we continue just because? Right? And this is where life becomes an actual art, the art of progressing just for the sake of it. You know, these are things that I think about, you know what I mean? And that's what I think about with knowledge add on the cipher, you know. A very, very you know, beautiful concept, you know. And when we take apart certain things, we want to look at the way things work in this kind of way. All right. If anybody has any questions, please let them in there and everything. Let's see. Wisdom Infinite, peace to the earth. Now she's appearing everywhere. She was a mystery earth for a while, but now she's appearing everywhere. It's wonderful. You know what I mean? It's wonderful. But yeah, the self I build, peace to the God. God, let me see. I have an email here that it's a huge email, and I haven't sent it out because it's so big. I want to answer everything, you know. But yeah, self I build. That big email you sent me, I'm still working on it. You know what I mean? He asked me some questions that just like, you know, that's peace earth. You know, I'm just joking, but that's peace earth. You know, I already know that when you come back, you've been building, you know, and that's also too a thing I always talk about. You don't have to be everywhere, but make sure that where you're somewhere is always has some type of lab. You know, I don't think people know how to retreat into a lab, and this is something I teach. You know, make a lab. You make your own lab, some place where you can study and train and all these things. You know what I mean? It cannot be just regulated to where you can go and others will allow it for you. You know what I mean? And that's peace. You know, I know some of the gods here. The god Shah Quest was doing some stuff like that to teach the other gods and earths. I don't know where he's at in that process though, but it's something that the god was telling me about. It's a good thing to learn the code and the cybersecurity and stuff. You know, especially me. You know, I don't know if I use technology well, so I can't be described as a Luddite, but I really feel like one at all. I really feel like that a lot. You know what I mean? Thank you, God. You know, that's peace. You know, that's the God Infinite Mind. You know what I mean? Got some exclusives, man. He played me a lot of records today that's coming out in the future and stuff like that. You know, but here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, and I have to balk and really scold the God. It was like totally unmastered. Oh my God. No, but it was me. Real great stuff. You know what I mean? And I'm saying I didn't say this to him though, but since we're out in the public here, this is definitely going to get written though. But I say this, and this is like the best thing I look for in MCs over the years and stuff. But he would totally demolish younger Infinite Mind on the mic. You know what I mean? Just destroy it. You know?
You know what? I got that. You said something that stuck to my head a very long time ago. And to this very day, it's still a main thing for me regarding my music or any music. Said if your next album doesn't sound better than your last album, what the fuck you doing?
Yeah,
that shit.
Yeah.
An artist, you know, and this is not verbatim, but you emphasize that an artist should be getting better. That the definition of perfection is to constantly elevate at an ever increasing rate. Which means that you're getting better and better, faster and faster.
Yeah.
So if I'm not doing it with albums, then I'm digressing.
Yeah.
That's how I say it.
Yeah.
Just to add.
Listen, when I started teaching this class, man, Infinite Mind was one of my first students, and at the beginning this is why Thursday was chosen, because I worked at a publishing firm and they only worked Monday through Thursday. So the hours were longer, but we have Friday off. You know what I mean? And the extra hours we worked, man, I just coasted. You were there in the office early. I'm just like daydreaming. You know what I mean? We didn't do anything. You know, just staring into space though, because I'm there too early. I'm not even ready. But so I teach here Thursday night, and it was such, the God brought such energy, and we would be building, and we would have, after class was done, the gods would have the freestyling session, and the God would freestyle for like, it was on some supernatural shit, the MC supernatural. Like the guy would just not stop. You know what I mean? You see my eyes all like swollen, like trying to, bloodshot red, trying to get like. And remember, you go, yo, God, you look like you smoked the blunts. I don't smoke, huh? Like I just been awake too long, man. I'd be awake at 5 a.m. teach the class at night. We'd be going home at like wisdom hour and things like that. You know what I mean? But it was great. It was great. You know what I mean?
remember on several occasions we went home when the sun came up.
That's right. That's right. It was like the Nothing But a G Thing video where Snoop Dogg goes home and shit, and it's already the next day, stumbling home.
God, the
G-Funk
no
thing.
remix.
Yeah.
The G-Funk thing got it further.
Yeah. But now the thing is, but that's yeah, that's great. You know what I mean? But I am very much against the reality of artificial intelligence, though. Because of that, though, we have to learn about it even more. You know what I mean? It's like, again, me and Infinite Mind's favorite movies, The Last Samurai. You know what I mean? I don't give a damn about AI. I want to know my enemy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the fucking. We really need to learn about this stuff, and there's a lot of books I have about it. You know what I mean? The concepts, the theories, the and I'm still learning about it. But it's really great to learn about that. See, you learn about that because it's very important. We have to know how to protect ourselves and all the intelligence that we have and stuff like that. And then we also have to be seeing what we can do as careers, because no matter what,
Just talking about that.
I grew, like my whole life has been about. Now I've always been an artist because I was a poet the whole time, but I've been in music my over half my life. Like professionally in music.
93 was the
So
first time.
obviously, 94 was when I started writing. I first got paid for something in 95. So officially professional in 95. So it would be 30 years now.
Did you already start your plus?
No, I didn't start it yet. But
Because it's going along the line.
yeah, it goes along those lines. Yeah, But that whole idea of this idea is like there's no way that my children couldn't end up being like that. It just ended up that my oldest daughter became a chef, so it takes her creative mind in kind of a thing that everybody always is going to need you to cook something, so it works for her, but and she's a real artist though, because now she looks at me and my bargain basement warrior meals and just scoffs at them,
Rice.
Yeah, no, I do.
Mine sometimes.
I do. Yeah, I do everything really basic. Like I just care about getting it in, real methodical and robotic. You know what I mean?
Monstrosity salad bowl.
Yeah.
Isn't that supposed to be for everybody?
And the guy has seen my salad bowl. I tell people like, yo, it's literally this big, and they don't.
You eating off the joint that they're supposed to serve everybody?
Yeah, where you serve everybody? I'm like, yo, give me that. You remember people used to come, they're like, yo, oh, so that's what everybody's serving themselves? Nah, that's mine. Everybody get another plate for that. But I've been talking about making a lot of plus lessons and trying to make them complete, going through the archives and stuff like that. I'm also going to do things here where I'm going to talk about certain plus lessons that are classics, So I'm going to reread things, quote certain things from classic plus lessons, like The Great Understanding, The International Teacher, and talk about them. You know what I mean? Let's build about them. But this one is one that I wrote. I didn't finish it though. The last summative sentence is not done, but anyone that emails me, I could get it to you this weekend because I just write that sentence, But I didn't know that my brother was gonna pick me up and drive me. So it was like gonna get finished on the train, but So I had that one sentence left. But this is actually written. I wrote this in 2020. You know, so this was right like when the pandemic started. It's probably why I lost track of it. You know what I mean? And I think I lost track of it though because when I started to teach online, I realized that people never heard any of the other plus lessons I wrote, like the build awareness square, the justice curriculum, justice build, etc., the power cipher beginner book list, those, you know what I mean? The living fruits protocol, you know, and the old ones are gonna get revamped. Living fruits protocol gonna add some more things. Gonna add nutrients that I use, nutrients to add on with, like, because I spend a lot of time playing around with different nutrients and vitamins and supplements. You know what I mean? Like I'm actually gonna get back into. I haven't used it in years, but I'm gonna get back into using creatine. You know, again. You know, um, just to see. I was gonna order it online though, but they make you sign for it, and I'm never sure when I'm gonna be there to sign for it, or if I'm not gonna hear it because I always have the music too loud.
Do they have a vegetarian version?
Yeah, creatine is usually is vegetarian. Yeah. No, when I remember using it, it didn't. It didn't. You know what I mean? But I also don't take things OD. A lot of people will take things OD. You know what I mean? And just have too high dosage. You know. But like 5 milligrams is like the dosage, and that's what I'm going to start with because that's what I used to have with it. So I know it's going to have an effect because my diet is so technical. Like the only thing that I do that is excess, that is probably a mistake, but I just love it because my salads are so big. I OD on olive oil because I just love olive oil. You know what I mean? So that's probably yeah, because when but that one you have to take it correctly because then you'll just get diarrhea and you just look like a terrible outside. You know what I mean? But
True. What is creatine? Like, isn't that like an amino acid of the body?
It is. It's part of that. You know what I mean? I gotta get the exact definition because I saw a recent little video about it, and read something about it, but I totally forgot everything about it. You know what I mean? But because all in my head was like, I gotta go get that again. But
it's a natural protein of the body.
It's part of the body. Yeah, the body just doesn't produce it as much. You know what I mean? You know, like a lot of people know. You know, it's also said that we used to produce vitamin C in our body, but we don't anymore. You know what I mean? A lot of biologists speculate, biochemists speculate that because other animals can, like goats and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But the benefit of using creatine, though, is that it just allows. It's a lot like protein powder in that it allows the muscles to grow. So that means that what it means by that, though, is that it's allowing you to recuperate faster. So anytime you can recuperate from the tearing of the muscle, it allows you to recuperate faster. You feel less soreness and stuff. Technically, it also retains water. So you end up retaining a lot of water in the good places in the muscles. You know what I mean? So that's why creatine is used a lot in excess and stuff because you know the bodybuilders, they're just going for the aesthetic of it. You know what I mean? And of course, though, I train for aesthetics as well too. You know what I mean? We're not wasting time here looking like a fool, but you know, but
I got into BCAAs.
Yeah, the BCAAs, yeah, they help too. Yeah, because
I take it with C-months.
Yeah, those are said that you could take it before or after. You know what I mean? That's something that, again, that's another one I used to use too, and I'm gonna get back into it. The thing is, I always end up using a whole bunch of shit. Like one nutrient I just started using that I really enjoyed, and I finished my supply. Was as an antioxidant, I was using curcumin. You know, which is curcumin is the main antioxidant that's in turmeric. But if you just make your food like super yellow and you don't get enough turmeric. Like the curcumin is not enough like that. So when you get it in the dosage, it's supposed to be a good antioxidant, good brain chemical. You know what I mean? So like I keep it simple. Sometimes I take these nutrients and I'm just like, yo, am I writing better? Am I reading? You know, and it feels better. So you know.
Have you ever done ginkgo?
Ginkgo, yeah, I've tried that too. It had good effects with that.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Yeah, I felt good effects with that.
Because I know, like, if you look it up,
I'm real big. It's not my favorite. if I go like, what part am I looking for? Like, like creatine is like if you're looking for body mass and all that kind of stuff. The supplement I usually tend to go for immediately is always brain chemicals, brain nutrients, brain supplements. Antioxidants.
They had a vegan omega-3 that I take.
Yeah,
It's a little more expensive, but
I take the Diva one, the Diva brand, because they use the algae, the blue algae.
I think that's the one that I take too.
Yeah. There's not too many. So that's the one So I take those too, because that kind of balances stuff, But and I just bought some flaxseed, you know what I mean? Because my youngest daughter, she's totally grown up vegan, but it's because of my whole life, so she has weird isms. So she likes to eat flax seeds by itself.
So she still eats.
Yeah, she's still, still. And she doesn't eat any candy still. She's 11 years old, doesn't like candy.
Okay.
It tastes horrible to her. So she never got a taste for it though, you know what I mean? So it can be done, you know what I mean? And I wasn't really telling her not to, she just never liked it. So Peace God. If you're gonna rap, if you're gonna sing along in karaoke, you gotta go outside.
Sorry, God.
God, if you're gonna karaoke, you gotta step outside, God. I don't want to hear your raps here. You know what I mean? Not when I'm building. Yeah, not now. Not now.
I'll take my bag with me too.
God, the type I recommend usually, because I go to the store, I'll probably end up going to Vitamin Shop and they make their own brand. I always make sure it doesn't have anything else, because creatine is usually used as a booster to start to like a pre-workout. Yo, I never buy anything that says pre-workout, because that's like cocaine, like anything like cocaine level, but legal, like massive caffeine, massive sugars.
Wait, what is that? So I can stay
When you buy pre-workout powders, they're usually like caffeine and sugar loaded.
Okay.
And they're made to just get you off the wall and wow.
What BCAA is that? I don't think that.
No, the BCAAs don't. If you get the BCAAs by themselves, but pre-workouts will have BCAAs.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's good to have before you work out. It opens up the muscle and everything. I train the minute I wake up. So about a half hour after I wake up, I'm already training. So I don't have time to like eat something, and I don't drink anything. I just drink a little bit of water and I go in. So that's why when I get BCAAs, I'll have them after.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter. They help before. I think the best thing to do is to find out when it feels better for you. If you have that opportunity. But the creatine, I think the Vitamin Shop brand, when I used to get it, it's the Vitamin Shop brand. It was just creatine monohydrate. And it was just that by itself. And it, it's a flaky white powder, so it looks like Tony Montana shit. You know what I mean? Because it comes in a big drum, so it just looks like, okay, man. You know what I mean? I told you a long time ago, But
My little one God who was here, he said he crushes up golden seal and sniffs it.
Who said that?
The old God.
Nah.
I was like, bro, why would you do that? And I remember you got upset about that. He was like, that's the worst idea.
Yo, sometimes people would say stuff and I just had to like delete that, because I would have an impressionable mind, It's crazy. Like certain, when you're dealing with nutrients and supplements, you also got to know the form that you take it in. Like I think teas are best. Like people take them in like liquids, like they'll take like teas, like liquids, chamomile liquid, things like that, whatever they're doing. But to me, the best thing is to try them as teas and then try them in other ways as well. If you use them in like a dosage, make sure that dosage is just higher than what you would get in a tea, because then it's just kind of wasteful to me. You know what I mean? But herbs are something that I don't really explore as much as people would think. I'm just obsessed with like the nutrients and the supplements and stuff. So I don't always get into that bag right there. You know what I mean?
I like
But brain nutrients, like when they collect them, other nutrients I don't know because they cost a lot. I mess with coenzyme Q10. That's one that's good for the brain and the body because it restores a lot of cells. So it's really good. I feel a lot of energy when I use those. Definitely in the winter. I have a habit of just using black seed oil. just in the winter, just be using black seed oil. Like I'll wake up, and since it's a liquid, in the winter, I'll wake up, take the black seed oil, and I feel, for me, the more I just take a spoonful and I just take it, and I feel like the more that it stings the throat, the more it's working. Like, or the more that I'm dealing with some type of foul shit.
So it's not smooth.
It's pretty smooth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why would it sting the throat?
It just does. It depends. Some days it doesn't. Some days it does. You know what I mean?
It's probably like the cold air.
Yeah. You know, like, or a lot of times it's because I'm around, like, being around kids a lot, and they got like every germ in the universe coughed at me. So I don't know. You know what I mean? But like, it's ideal because like the thing is, I'm dealing not even just with one grade. Yeah, I'm dealing with like K through 5.
Okay.
You know, so I'm like dealing with like all types of germs. You know, all levels. You know, like this last semester, I was dealing with K through 5, and then also high school. So it was just. So it's a lot of germs. I don't know where I would get sick from. And, you know, like if you get pissed at the kids, your throat starts hurting. You know what I mean? Like,
I told you.
Kids are making me sick. Yo, one time my voice went away. I sound like Barry White and shit. And the kids were just laughing at me. I said, "This is my voice. This is what you made me." You know? Yeah, it was gone. It was gone. You know? Yeah. Now you said Easy. You said you put black seed oil in your tea, man. I don't like the taste of black seed oil. I don't know if I would like it in the tea, though. You know, but you know, as long as you take it, you know what I mean. But try the creatine if you're weightlifting and stuff. It's definitely a good thing to test. You know, I just know that if you, because as an add-on, since we're adding on here, I want to go deeper into this stuff, but I always get my supplements if I online. I have the app for iHerb, iHerb. You know, it's so hard to say iHerb, but
you know that
it's iHerb, iHerbs, iHerb, but yeah, iHerb, but I'm out in Staten Island though, but when I order from them, they be having the shit the next day, so it's like I feel like Roadrunner.
I do the Amazon shit.
Yeah, I feel like Roadrunner with them because they're faster than Amazon. They should be like, you know, I've ordered one time late at night and got it the next afternoon. So they nearby though. They be getting it to me fast. But check that out because you get good deals, free shipping at over $30. But I want to get into the plus lesson before I go. So I said I had to leave at 8. This is a short plus lesson, so we didn't waste time. Have you not heard that your word shall be bond regardless to whom or what? Yes, my word is bond, and bond is life, and my word, and I will give my life before my word shall fail. Right? That's one of my favorite degrees of all of them. You know what I mean? And when I wrote the plus lesson, I was thinking like, yo, this is part of our culture. Like identifying how a word is bond is part of our culture. You know what I mean? So I just started jotting these things down. There might even be more things I add to it though. But I wrote here, it's called Word is Bond. This is the name of the plus lesson. Word is Bond, a targeted approach to application. You know what I mean? In other words, just a more concentrated one. Now, it's funny. You see, I wrote here a quote from Intellectual Warfare by Jacob Carruthers, page 282. But I didn't write the damn quote. So I got to go find it and put it in there to finish this thing off. But that's a great book, by the way. Now, I can't remember what quote it was, but I'll tell you, I know where it's from in the book. Jacob Carruthers wrote this book, right? Intellectual Warfare, and it's about ancient Kemet. But the last chapter is basically about the way that the word creates reality. It's a great build. It's like almost, it reads more like an appendix to the book because it's not really exactly what the book was about. The book was more historical, anthropological. But then he just ripped it on this thing about how the ancient people of Kemet, our ancestors, right? They were very intent on being able to articulate what was in the mind and that things were not fully born unless they were able to word them and mouth them off and say them. So, this is something that we deal with, that we respect, that we adhere to. So, I took a quote from them. It's really a good quote. I just gotta find it though. I know I tagged it up in there, but and it's not a digital book I have. I have not found any of the Jacob Carruthers books. This is the actual physical book I have, but I wrote, the word is the articulation of thought, the wisdoming of knowledge, of the knowledge, when that knowledge is that true and actual idea. The word is bond is a pact of desire charged by will. Okay. Perfecting, then I have these little bullet points called perfecting the word. The word is the truth you live, therefore there must be practice in expressing the truth against any and all adversaries. The greatest adversary to the expression of truth is within one's own mind. Now, as a side note here, word is bond is an obvious degree. I don't need to tell you that it's just simply about keeping your promise, though. That's all it is. It's not really a degree that's complex. The whole point of me writing this plus lesson is because I wanted to help with it being more overt in your mind of how serious it should be at all times. So I wrote here another bullet point: ideas and the mathematical principles that make the word. So then we have one, knowledge. When your foundation is of being a creator and realizing that if all else fails, that you really are the creator, then the truthfulness of your idea is the core of the driving wheel that fuels the word is bond. Wisdom. How useful, relevant, so typo there, and humane are your endeavors becomes a reasoning to how often and to what you make your word is bond to, right? Your word bonded to. Understanding. 3. The word, and I'm going with the mathematics, obviously. The word upheld always must be based on furthering an insight that you are protecting for yourself and or projecting to the world. What is this understanding? In other words, every time you give your word is bond, it's a promise that fortifies what understandings you're protecting of your own, but also what you intend to project to the outside world. Okay? Because remember, word is bond always takes some kind of type of enforcement. 4, culture. The word is the signature of the way of life. Even after the bond is secured and manifested, the upkeep of the word is now the character of the said true and living God or earth. It is now one's nature. So I said, the more that you keep your word is bond, or the more that you do not, becomes the nature of your character. Yeah, the word is good or your word is shit with that, right? Power. The more power the word is bond has, the less it is uttered. The more it affects one's dealings. It is a repellent of the superficial and an attracting power in the sincere seeking or building. Okay? So there's a lot that I put in there. I really concentrated that. But when your word is bond, it's very natural. You don't have to say word is bond. So like when I leave you guys, I don't have to say word is bond. I'm going to be here next week. You know what I mean? I didn't have to say that. You know what I'm saying? So the more that you keep your word is bond, the more it's less uttered as a declaration. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's great, but that's why I wrote this plus lesson. It's also important to remember that this is what you were doing, that you are actually giving your word as bond. Okay? Because people, whenever you give your word as bond, sometimes you don't notice that you're giving out this type of energy. Okay? It affects your dealings, of course, though, in a negative way if your word ain't shit. It affects your dealings if your word is bond. You're going to be asked and expected of more of, and that's just something to handle. It's a repellent of the superficial, means if your word is bond, people whose word isn't bond aren't going to be attracted to that. You know what I mean? And people whose word is bond, or people that are seeking or intending to build, they're going to link up with you. You're going to attract the builders, and you're going to attract the people that want to learn, the hopeful, the would-be, and the said student. 6, equality. The entire framework of equality, as I see it, is the proper position the creation created by creator puts themselves into. Okay? This author argues that the word is bond is always upheld in a state of equality, and it balances all decision making. In other words, this is the moral compass, though. It's the action of the moral compass. When people ask you anything, if you do or you don't, it's your word is bond. And if we start to see every decision like this, then we start to see the equality in the way we put ourselves. You know what I mean? 7, God. Few things reaffirm one's reality of self as God than the word is bond. No full description of the true and living is without this distinction of upholding one's word as bond. So I'm saying something very basic here, but very absolute. Okay? There's nobody that I know. I don't know. I know you really know that they're the true and living God, but their word is not bond. There's not one without the other.
I know there's people that say they are and do the complete opposite.
Yeah, for real.
But that's you unfortunately
Yeah.
come across that.
Yeah, you know, build the state of building is universal change. The word is bond is a declaration that you will be a leader in change, not just a consistent participator in random events. In other words, this, right? I remember this. A lot of elders used to be a firstborn prince used to always talk about. He used to always hate sideline cats. You know what I mean? Take your stand, take your stance, and go all the way with it. Though the word is bond is part of that. It is part of the way that you decide your principles and show forth your principles. Because when you show forth your principles, right? That's a way of showing your word is bond. Because you're giving your word that that's the principle that you live by. Okay. Born. Word is bond. Not the ninth one. Born. Word is bond is complete once one has taken on the active practice in writing one's history in advance. There were so many typos that I wrote here. Yeah, missing words there basically. But born is what I always say. Born is elevated fulfillment. You know what I mean? Something complete, but wonderfully complete. And the word is bond is also to develop a finisher out of people. You know, this is what I like when I read books. It's very rare I don't finish a book. You know, I even read the shitty ones that I started. You know,
Force yourself to finish.
yeah, I'd be forcing myself. Yeah, like, what was one book that's really big that I haven't finished yet? It's a novel because I suck at novels. So like, there's like, no lie, God, if you look at my app, I got probably like 30 novels that I started, and they're all mid or like 2 chapters in and shit. I'm terrible with made up stories, you know. But you know, the more that you complete task is the way that you exercise the word is bond. You know what I mean? And the last thing I have here, no, there's more actually. See, always right. There's a care for the future if the word is bond is important. If the future is an illusion, then one's word being bond would be unworthy. We worry of the future that will affect the next present moment. What is the nature of the individual as his word is in the state of being bonded, of always being of a bonded nature? And I ask those as questions, I'd leave it out there. Part of this plus lesson is not to just keep telling you what is basic, word is bond as a promise, but I'm trying to get you into your head to think and let it be a thinking tool to say, listen, this is beyond just like a promise. If we are the creators of the universe, the true and living gods and earths, that means that the way that we say our word is bonded into something is also designated the tasks that are going to be completed over the course of time and millennia, right? So it's fucking important. That's really what I mean there. Just really fancy way. But then there's another bullet point: the practice of the personal bond. So here's some little tidbits. I might add more, but again, it's preliminary. These things live and grow. These plus lessons. But I wrote the practice of the personal bond entails one. Apply the back plus lesson. That's the plus lesson I wrote, the Build Awareness Square, where you focus and keep a log, a mental log or a physical log of what you eat, how you train, how you read, meaning what you do the knowledge to, what you write, how you write, speak, and then what you share, how you share. Then also the practices in the creativity and or expressive works and arts. Is your word to the difficult task of turning insights articulated into expressed art? You know, because God, the things that you made, right? There's, I think, trying out expressive arts, the arts, test the man's word is bond too, because there's gaps sometimes where you try to finish the creation, but you stumble on the difficulty of it, the difficulty to get the thought out, the difficulty to make it creative, the mere difficult, yeah, the difficulty of just performance of it. You know what I mean? So a lot of times these are activities of the word is bond. Because listen, and I'm going to make it very overt here. If your word is bond is not practiced and very strong for yourself, nobody knows about it. You know about it. Your word is bond is worthless to the world if it's weak for you. You know, there's there's also another chapter here too. The difference between breaking the bond and readjusting the plan to fulfill the bond. You know, and I didn't fill those out. There's going to be more things that I add to that though. But there's the quality of it, the quality of the bond. There's the nature of how you build and how you train, for example, where are you breaking the bond or are you adjusting? You know what I mean? Because some people would be too serious with that. You know what I mean? Or new information comes to light because we also make mistakes and we give our word to things that are not righteous endeavors, right? So it's not an end all thing. And then I have this little thing I wrote here, word is bond pledges. And this is kind of what I was saying before. The word is bond pledges, how they're most important. First, to self, particularly the principles one upholds daily, how they expressed, to loved ones, to one's professional work, i.e. the arts, and to humanity as a poor righteous teacher, right? These are your word is bonds. Like these are the main brackets of peoples that you're dealing with. Exercises to perfect the word. Inner debates. Have a conversation with the person most difficult to prove and understanding you see. Example, proving you were the true and living God to your parents. That's a tough one. Devise your opening statement and then what their counter would be. Follow what your response. Continue the inner debate as long as possible. Then 2 scenarios. Make a list of all the scenarios and reasons you would give your word as bond for. This sounds like, oh, that's like a lot of stuff. This is what you do. You think about, you know, like the people that you find that they give their word right and exact and they're always ready and they thought about these things. They thought about, and look, you think that you're not subject to thinking this way, but when you write a contract, that's what a contract is. They're thinking of every single stipulation and possibility that it can happen and then putting your word on it. So if you're accepting of that, but you're not accepting of sitting down and thinking of, oh, how you're going to manifest these principles and keep your word to what, you're going to fall victim. You'll do. Let's say you go to a record label, which that's totally outdated though. But like you go to a record label, you don't know what you keep your word to. That's how you get screwed. But at the same time, in your endeavors with other people, you know who you make music to, right? You already know, God, like who you make music to, who do you work with in your endeavors, right? Especially now that we have to become more entrepreneurial, we have to be more of our own businessmen, right? We have to have real concrete ways of decision making standards of how we give our word, you know. So that's what I mean by devising scenarios. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much it. That's what I have. There'll be other things added, like I mentioned and stuff. But that's the plus lesson. It has a summative add-on to it that'll summarize the whole thing about it ultimately being understood as more of a is much more than a promise. And it is a promise that should inherently gain in value as you live and grow. You know what I mean? But that's the word is bond plus lesson. It's a targeted approach, something that I wrote so that way it could be more overt, more outright than something like, no, I always keep my word to things, but we don't notice what we give our word to. You know, because you know what I hate, God? This happens all the time when you're online, right? You always see, oh, I'm always doing things for everybody. That's a common theme in social media when people gripe. Take note. Have your ledger. You know, because the 85 and the people out there and your work and everything, everybody's keeping a ledger, right? You go to work, they go, oh, look, this is what you've done. This is how you perform. Why can't we keep a ledger of how we perform for ourselves? You know?
Right.
You know? And that's really the point of it, you know? And a lot of these plus lessons, if you notice, a lot of these plus lessons I make, they're from my understanding, so they're very calculated. You know what I mean? They're very calculating. They're very calculated. because I'm very calculating, God. You know what I mean? I count the amount of steps I walk. I can't. It has to be 50,000 a week at least. You know, I count what type of trainings I do. I log them. You know what I mean? How many pages I read at least. You know, because I have a 300-page limit. You know what I mean? You know, goal, not limit, because I go over. But everything has to be there. They're all the jump shots in the gym. You know what I mean? They're all the jump shots in the gym. You know, so I'm always keeping stuff for that and everything like that. So that way, other things are easy to handle. So like when I look at my kids and I say, well, am I doing enough for them? First of all, if I keep a log of all the other shit, I'm not with my children going, man, I could have been doing some working out. You know, like catching up with shit. No. I did enough. I did everything. I don't have to be like looking at them like, yo, you ruined my life, kid. You know what I mean? Like, I could have been doing these things, but you ruined it. You know what I mean? So it's not like that. You know what I mean? It's not like that.
I would add
Yes.
another element to that plus lesson has to have some time to reflect on what you did, keep your word as bond to, so that you can be proud of yourself, so that you're not always so hard on yourself, because you know it's difficult to write a timeline of what you want to do, and then if it doesn't happen, you start pointing the fingers to yourself. You know, like you were the fault, and sometimes it's just not how things work. So it's a good thing to take some time aside to show gratitude to yourself. You know, and show like gratitude is a good attitude, man. And because I'm speaking from personal perspective, because when I don't keep my word as bond, when I say I'm going to do something and it doesn't happen, like I really go inward in a negative way. I spiral inward, or I've spiraled inward, and kind of put myself down, felt depressed, felt like, damn, I fucked up as usual.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not a good feeling. So I try not to have aspirations that are realistic. Also learning how to say no without feeling guilty.
That's part of the word is bond, right? I will not give the word is bond. Yeah.
And telling people I can't, I'm not going to be able to. No disrespect. It's just, I got a lot of things going on right now. People hit me up like, yo, can you jump on this track with me, or a couple of jobs? I'm like, not right now. Don't take it the wrong way. I'm down. Just not right now. Right now, I got to deal with this, I got a lot of personal projects I'm dealing with. So that's a very important perspective for me, to like not be so hard on yourself, man.
Yeah.
But at the same time, be a little harder on yourself too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it depends. Yeah. I'm always hard on myself. So a lot of times the looking through what I completed to my word, personal word, also gives me the grace. Like, yes, I did enough. It's okay. I'll whatever I didn't do good, I'll do it better now coming up this week. But you got to look at it that way. But it's it is like that Frank Sinatra song All the Way, right?
Yes.
Right. It's right. When somebody loves you, it's no good if they don't love you all the way. Right?
Tell me your brother a little there.
Yeah. That's my singing voice. Yeah. Nobody has requested. They've requested features, but not singing features. I don't know why.
I wonder why.
Oh man, But yeah, you all the way. You know what I mean? It's no good if it's not all the way. You know what I mean? And there's a way of challenging yourself too. The word is bond to yourself. It should be a challenge though. It's okay to fail. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's okay to fail. Like, yo, I did this shit good, and that's why I'm gonna detail on it, because word is bond also has to do a lot with the tasks that you engage in.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important. That's why it's such a powerful degree with me.
Right. Especially because it goes together with that first degree in the 140 when it talks about writing your own personal Quran.
Yeah.
And how much you take that into your life, how much you calculate that into your life. But it's also good to understand that when shit doesn't go your way, understand like my understanding of the knowledge degree in the 140, when it talks about how we write our own Quran 25,000 years in advance, I look at it like, the 85, accredit the universe as being this all powerful thing that brings things towards you, where I say that that's your subconscious mind that you're not always aware of, because we're consciously aware, because we're consciously making decisions, and we're writing our history right now. I have a piece of paper and a pen where I have my notes on my iPhone. I say tomorrow at 7 o'clock I am going to do this till 7:30, and then after 7:30, from 7:30 to 8. That's my conscious mind playing into effect. But what if it doesn't go that way? What if you get a phone call at 7:15 in the morning and the shit just doesn't go your way? What if it's a very important phone call that you have to deal with? You hear what I'm saying? So there's a part of Word is Bond where it's like you're being too rigid in calculating everything as a calculative individual, myself being included in that I try to calculate everything, but then I have to give credit to the unknown. But for me, the unknown is that subconscious, that shit from the Matrix. When the Oracle says you already made the decision, you just need to figure out why you made the decision. That concept and idea. Where it's like, the subconscious already plays a part in this.
Right.
And physics will explain that too. Physics tells us that if you were standing at a star system light years away and you had a large enough telescope to look at the Earth, this hypothetically, you would be looking back in time. You know what I mean? So our ability to understand that time is an illusion and that the subconscious is already writing history in advance, that Quran, that 25,000 years in advance, you know what I mean? Is basically trying to remain humble and understanding that shit just doesn't go your way sometimes for a reason, and you gotta roll with the punches. Like you could Sherlock Holmes it all day. He remember with the Robert Downey Jr. one, right? He was always calculating his fighting. He tried to do that shit with the second dude, Moriarty, and Moriarty was like, I could play that game too. So the game was switched. And you got to come up with something on the whim, because you have to learn how to roll with the punches and shit, man. So keeping your word is bond, and then it not going a certain type of way, like just try to reflect, go into a reflective mode, and be like, yo, I wonder why. Okay, something.
I'll say this though, guy, right? That concept of time being taken away and not being able to do what you planned, that happens to me all the time, because I get so many people that email me, call me up, text me, right? And these are all students. So I try to and I find a time to say no, time to say yeah. That it always takes a time.
In the park, somebody wants to talk to you.
Right? Yeah, this is not the fucking time, But then I realized that it's never the time. So people go, yo, students, are you busy? And I was like, yeah, I'm always busy. Yeah, you are interrupting. Always be interrupting me, because there's no time where I'm just standing still. I'm doing something. So my thing is this: there's always going to be time taken away that I didn't plan on it being taken away. You know what I mean? And so that always leads me to try to eliminate all the procrastination, like all the time, and say, listen, okay, I'm going to get this done immediately. You know what I'm saying? And really, so I tend to dive into things in the beginning of the week, and get all these exercise, all the reading pages, journal pages. I end up doing all that shit by Monday the way I do it. By Wednesday, I'll read 300 by Wednesday, just so it's out of the way and shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And those tasks like that. But it's about using the time. So time management and stuff like that becomes things too, because your word might be shit and it has nothing to do with your valor. It has to do with the way you time manage.
Right.
So these are all things that take into
I'm
place.
pretty sure that shit even happens to monks and who live in the mountain.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Meditate.
Yo,
Just,
yeah.
And then next thing you know,
Meditate, and then
a bee comes. So you gotta learn how to roll with the punches.
Yeah.
That's the key factor.
Adjusting is a thing. Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely. But Eric Cook, I see you. That's peace. Sunius97@gmail is where you can email me for everything. You said hopefully a law school will be successful under your leadership, Sunius. A law school Mecca is not under my leadership. Do not, yeah.
It's my leader, teacher, and guide.
No.
The Honorable Sunyas alone.
Yeah.
James born alone.
Yeah. You took it back. You went. You rewound way too back. You know.
The iron butterfly. The myth of the iron butterfly.
But you funny guy. No, it's peace, guys. It's peace. No, I say that because like I add on here like everybody else does. You know what I mean? I don't want to say many decisions at the school people take through me or ask for my thoughts on things. I don't think and I don't see myself as like some kind of final say, but people respect what I've done here and what I
You're
do.
the abbot of a law school.
So
I'm just kidding. I don't want to.
But no, I people respect and at least take things through and inform me about what things are happening. You know what I mean? And regard my thought, my understanding, and even my opinion highly. So that's a thing that I think I've earned. You know what I mean? Wouldn't say I'm a leader because I don't really be pitching like that. I only care about teaching. You know what I mean? I only care about teaching. I really keep it very simple. You know what I mean? I stay out of the politics though, not because I don't want to handle politics or avert it. No. But I'm being honest. Like I will deal with the politics though, with the proper decorums. Because look, when I was taught to teach here, Savior Knowledge, Firstborn Prince, Knowledge Me, My Enlightener, Remembered Imperfection. It's a diplomat role when you teach here. You know what I mean? Like you have to, kind of represent like the whole school and the whole nation in many respects. Like I couldn't say some dumb shit here and be all totally off the wall here, and it would be reflective on the nation, in some way. They'll be open. No, Seniors never represented a nation just because he was the only word they're actually doing anything. The last, like that could be diminished, even
That's
though.
in your head, how they talk.
Yeah. That's my That's my troll voice. Yeah, that's how I envision the troll.
That's how you're reading.
Yeah, it's based off my voice. You know how girls they have their boy voice, how boys talk. Yeah, they go woo. Yeah, I'm like, yo, there's no boy that talks like that. And then she imitates my voice, and it's like, oh yeah, it's just an even deeper version of that, though. Yeah. She does me rapping too, and it's horrible imitations though. Yeah. They're pretty accurate though. Like So she takes on my polo, put the polo on, and she goes, "Yeah, the son of us." And she starts doing that. But yo, that's the teaching today. The word is bound. Plus, email me. I'll give you. We'll build. I'll share things, books, anything. Until next week. All right. That's it. Peace.